opinions are mine, not necessarily those of the Newton Public Library. Boilerplate statements is a couple of reasons why you want to spend time at your Newton Public Library as a human instead of just logging into our webpage is that libraries are all over the place. You can talk to a human, and we have access to more than just Google. We have access to white papers and other access that aren't necessarily open to the general public, things that we subscribe to. Another thing that I always smack people up against the head with, please always do your Windows updates before you load a new program or put your credit card on the internet. Do your antivirus, spyware bot, malware bytes, firewall. Get it all updated. Maybe even do a restart before you really start putting yourself out there on the internet. We've got a lot of parts of this class. It got huge on me. So I'm going to be saying a few things and flipping through a lot of different slides because it's just massive. And I want to spend time talking with Clayton about what he does as opposed to just giving terms and definitions of things the entire time. So if you find that you have questions, please flip back through those and then by all means give us a holler. At the end, I've got a telephone number. So this is Clayton. We've got a lot of stats here about number of followers and general revenue, experience. What can you tell us about these things, Clayton?
Well, I can tell you that I've been gaming for most of my life, and this whole streaming thing started with me trying to make a YouTube channel, and I wanted to just upload videos of different things that I wanted to do. And I was finding that I was having more success streaming to a live audience than I was by uploading videos. So I just kind of started uploading videos more. I really got into the whole streaming and YouTube scene with Grand Theft Auto 5. You can see some of my PvP stats below there. I'd say I'm pretty good at the game, and most people who've watched me play it would tend to agree. Pretty much, like, I would not recommend live streaming necessarily as a way to make a living. Like, you're probably not gonna, put food on your table with it. You might get lucky and you might, break big, but it's a pretty good hobby that if you do things the right way, I mean, you can have it pay for itself.
Nice. So we've got a news article here from the McPherson Sentinel to where they came out and they visited you.
Yeah, a reporter. I'm sorry.
Oh, I still haven't gotten the live. I thought it was working, but it didn't actually start. So we're recording it, so you can keep going, and then
okay.
And then I'll just keep trying to get the live stream to work, or yeah, if you want to keep going. I just wanted to let you guys know.
Do we need to back all the way out?
Well, I mean, we do have Kathy here watching, so I'd hate to just repeat it all on her, but let me see here. I don't know why it's not working. It's saying it's giving me error messages and stuff. Let me try.
Well, what are the error messages saying?
It keeps saying the content you requested is no longer available. I don't know.
Kathy says start again if you want.
Thanks, Kathy. I tried logging out and logging back in. Maybe that'll do something.
Kathy with MVP status over here.
Oh, it's still giving me the error message. What the heck is going on?
Well, what's it saying?
The content that you requested is no longer available. It's popping.
Well, that's just when you go to watch it. That shouldn't have anything to do with you actually streaming it.
I log in from my phone.
Let me try. What if I try sharing it? Top 20.
I mean, if you guys want, okay, if you guys want, I have streaming software over here. If I have access to the library page or whatever, I can just as easily share my screen over here and pop off a live stream on the Newton page. It would only take me like probably 2 or 3 minutes to do. and I don't know what you'd want me to type in the
Oh.
description there, but
Oh, you know what? I think I figured out what the problem was. It requires a title, and I was typing the title in the. I think I was filling in their form wrong.
okay.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I have all the software here to do it. I just don't have access to the pages. But I'd be willing to do it if you're having issues over there. I'll bet you I could have it up within a few minutes, and it'd be wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, let me try this one more time, and then if it doesn't work, you can like start sharing it on yours, and then we'll just share it to the page.
Yes, because getting into the right Facebook page would be the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, I could just pop it off on my Facebook page, but and then y'all can share it there. It would be very easy for me to do. It'd be trivial at best. It'd only take me like 2 minutes.
Let's see. So,
I was having technical problems before the beginning of my live stream yesterday that I had to overcome.
I counted, and we've done more than 40 of these now, but it still every now and then becomes a big problem.
Well, that's because people change stuff, at least on the Facebook end of things.
Yeah.
When Twitch is a dedicated streaming platform, and they might change every couple of years, but for the most part, they leave it alone from the user perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Can we make Clayton the host, and then you can have access to the streaming function?
I don't even need to do all that. I'll just pull up my screen same way I would with my gaming, and I just put it up on my page.
Okay. And what's your page called?
Sovereign 92. SOVERIGN 92.
Oh, I see it. Great. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Right now,
the live stream here.
I haven't popped off the stream yet. I have to change my sources just a little bit, because I have my game overlay. I forgot about that, but it won't be too big of a deal for me to do that.
And Sam, you're set as admin right now, so I can't.
Oh, should I make? Okay, so I'll make him the make host.
Crap.
And I think right now, Sam, I think you're still recording, right?
Yeah, this is all being recorded for posterity.
Great.
It's so frustrating because you can see that it is like the stream is being. I can see the stream on like the prep screen on Facebook, but then you click go live and it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. It's a fake button that was put there to taunt me, basically.
Display capture, that will work. All right, now I have to go to my Facebook page. I've got my streaming software started up and configured the way it should be. I guess my viewers are going to get to partake in this presentation as well. Good for them. They get bonus content today.
Yeah, it's great to have them.
I don't know that I'll be engaging them very much in the comments because I don't want to take away from you guys' comment section, but
more the merrier.
I can see how they'd be a little confused.
Oh, this is gonna confuse the fuck out of them. They're gonna I'm gonna light up the stream and a couple of them are gonna come in the comment section like, huh?
What the world is this?
I might end up wanting a minute to explain to them at the beginning of the stream though why this is happening so that
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, well, we're live on my page. Well, at least we should be in a few seconds, as long as Facebook takes to load. All right, so for everybody tuning in now, which nobody has yet, but for the purposes of people seeing in the future, I'm doing a presentation with Newton Public Library, and they are having technical difficulties on their end, and me starting up this live stream so that they can share it to their Facebook page is the easiest solution we've come up with to address those technical difficulties. So I will not be answering too many questions in the comment section or engaging with you guys too much over there. If you wish to get in on that, I suggest you head to the Newton Public Library Facebook page and jump over there and ask whatever questions we have, so it's all in one place. If you guys are here to watch a game, I'm not doing a game right now. I will be doing a game and probably, well, sometime after this is over. If you guys want to sit here and watch it anyways, you're welcome to, but you don't have to. It is what it is. And now we're going to get on with the business.
All right. Well, top 20 online gaming sites and devices, August 13th. By all means, this is a recorded class. My style for making these classes is that I put as much data as possible into each slide. I'm not going to read word by word, but the idea is that later on you can go back through and you can check the links and confirm and read the articles that I mentioned here and there. That way, months from now, you don't have to be really missing out on things by just seeing pictures of cats on the screen instead of having actual documentation. So my name's Nathan Carr. I'm the IT supervisor at Newton Public Library. On the line here, we've got Clayton Hodson, and he is a professional in the field that we're going to be discussing here. My views and opinions are mine, not necessarily those of the library. 3 reasons why you'd want to go to your local library. We've got physical content, physical humans you can talk to, and we've got access to more than just Google searches. We've got white papers and different things that we subscribe to as a service. Before you load up a program, before you put your credit card online, before you start telling people your actual address, please think about what you're doing and run your Windows updates, run your antivirus updates, your spyware updates, your firmware, your firewall, everything before you start going online. Protect yourself. This class got away from me. It got huge, and it got huge in a hurry. A lot of things I'm going to just briefly discuss so that we can get on with the really interesting things, which is what Clayton does. Clayton, what can you tell me about what we're seeing here on the screen?
Well, I am a live streamer and a video game content creator. I stream on Twitch and Facebook Live. You can find me on either of those places under the tag of Sovereign92. And I've got 4,500 followers on Facebook. I think at one point I made like $10,000, live streaming that I used to upgrade my system and do everything. It's not a hobby that I'd recommend anybody gets into for the money. A lot of people get into it thinking they're going to be the next great big YouTube sensation and that they're going to get rich, and then they don't, and then they get disappointed. So, I mean, if you're going to get into like live streaming itself, just have some realistic expectations. And what got me into it is I started out wanting to make YouTube videos. I wanted to make YouTube videos about Grand Theft Auto 5 specifically. And I at one point decided that live streaming would be a good way to promote my videos, but then I found I was having more success with live streaming than I was with the videos, so I just decided I'd skip the extra step and do that. I've been gaming since the early days of gaming. Well, what most people consider the early days, Duke Nukem 3D, Sonic the Hedgehog, Windows 95, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, all that stuff. And I'm part of the, he says in the slide here that streaming got big over the last 5 years, and I've kind of been a little bit of a part of that.
Very nice. So you got interviewed by a local paper. What was that about? What was that like?
Well, very nice reporter by the name of Patricia Middleton came out to my house, and she took an interest in the whole live streaming thing. The paper itself got some of my my analytics numbers wrong, but other than that, the article itself was very positive, and yeah, it was a pretty interesting thing to have happen. Because usually newspapers are more like their target market is an older audience, and you don't usually see them talking about gaming or technology or anything like that in newspapers. So yeah, it was interesting.
I like how she calls it. Looks like mission control in there.
It really does. I've got about $17,000 worth of equipment in here. I got a professional studio with professional audio and video editing software and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
I mean, I've probably got about $4,000 in audio gear just to make, my voice sound good and to make the acoustics of the room sound good.
And that pad off to the right of your laptop with all the glowing buttons, those are all sound effects or something, right?
Yes, that is my, and I haven't used it in a while, but that's if I want to cue in live sound effects, like say I get a funny audio clip of, I don't know, Donald Trump saying something stupid, which I actually do have a couple of Trump clips on there. I can go ahead and I can take that audio and I can bind the file to like it works like a MIDI controller. And I think I've got one where Trump was going bing bing bong bong bing bing bing, and I used to use that quite a bit when I was getting on a kill spree in my games. Just it adds a. I haven't used it in a while, but it kind of adds a comedic flair to it.
And now you're not just doing Grand Theft Auto, right?
I was primarily doing Grand Theft Auto back in the days when these pictures were taken, but they're still relevant. Now I do some Grand Theft Auto. I host my own server, and I've been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work on that lately. But I also do survival games like Ark Survival Evolved. They basically put you on an island with nothing, and you have to survive against dinosaurs. And I have a tendency, I want to do open world games that let you explore and do things that you like to do, and that's where my tastes fall in. I like exploring other worlds and finding things. And
all right. Well, when you say that you're an online streamer, it basically means you're streaming, you're videoing and presenting while you're playing, so that live action, as your character falls off a cliff, people are laughing in the background, and you're chuckling along and getting ready to clear them out, right?
Yeah, it happens, and it happens in real time. I intentionally have a 10-second delay on my stream so that other people can't use the information. Like, say, if I'm playing a shooting game against you, I figure 10 seconds is just long enough for the viewers to get the effect that they're looking for, but not so long. Like, basically, if we're in the middle of a gunfight with each other in Call of Duty and you're looking at my screen, the information that you're getting from my screen from 10 seconds ago is not going to be very useful to you.
All right. Looks like this article I was going by was saying the early 2010s was back when you could really find a lot of the streamers really starting to hit their stride. That sound about right?
That's about when it all started. It was a lot more difficult to do back then. And some people are still doing it this way to these days, but back then to stream, you'd have to have like 2 gaming computers. You'd have to have one to run the game that you're playing, and then you'd have to have another with a capture card just so that you had enough processing power to encode your stream and get it out to the internet, you know. At least if you wanted to do it with any professional level of quality.
And you'd have to have a really large bandwidth, right? Be able to broadcast and receive at the same time while you're playing.
Yeah, you do. Personally, I think the bare minimum, and you could probably scrape by with less, but I think the bare minimum that you should have for internet is like 25 meg, maybe 50, bare minimum. If you're live streaming, you really want to have like gigabit fiber optic connection, because I mean, you want to talk about the network and bandwidth. It's not just the data you're sending out and the data you're receiving for your game and your stream, but you also have to take into consideration other people in your house who might be using your internet. You know, like Netflix itself, I think takes 10 megs of connection to, you know, to be good.
Yeah,
So if you're
it's on 1.5 meg, and that was terrible.
Yeah, and if you're encoding your video and sending it out at 10 meg, and then you have somebody else in the other room watching Netflix at 10 meg, and that leaves you only, you know, that small extra like 5 meg of bandwidth or whatever left from that 25 minimum that I said to, you know, have your game come to you without having any lag or anything else going on. A lot of people in the PC gaming community and the live streaming community really overlook their networking gear, and it ends up being quite detrimental to some of them.
Because they're busy lagging while everybody else is running circles around them, right?
Well, not only that, but it's either that or their live stream is lagging or it's having connectivity problems. And the last thing that people want to see when they come to your page to watch your gameplay is like 10 seconds of your gameplay, and then the video stops while the internet connection has to catch up. You know, I mean, it's just like these, and I try to tell these people who are live streaming from their cell phones, because that's another thing they're doing these days, is they're pointing their cell phone at their TV and trying to use that for streaming. And I'm like, well, nobody wants to watch that. The cell phone doesn't do good video quality and it doesn't do good audio quality, and you need at least one of those two to have a good stream.
That makes sense. So electronic games, we're not quite talking about online games right now, just electronic games. Why would they matter? Because they've captured the imagination of society, because people find them really interesting, right? Because just sitting down playing a board game isn't necessarily going to be the same thing as playing video games. You got a lot of people out there spending a lot of hours playing games. We got 12 plus billion hours a week across the world. Is it a waste of time? Maybe not, because they've done some psychological studies here. They can relieve stress, improve brain function, stimulate the mind, boost creativity. I mean, relationships, make you feel young and energetic. What I really thought of was going to be your hand-eye coordination. It just, when you're really into a game, things melt away and you get into that game, and that really, you start moving through. You got stress relief that comes into play. You've got the brain function, where it talks about this study down here at the bottom of the link that I mentioned is talking about how helps you do puzzles and not hand-eye coordination. Anyway, the puzzle.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it. Go for it.
There is a mental effect that your mental part of the slide didn't really cover that I think is noteworthy. If you have a truly good game, and I could spit off some titles that have actually had this effect on me. If you have a truly good game and you get really immersed into it, it makes a really good stress reliever because it can clear your mind, and you're thinking about what's going on or what you're doing, and you're not thinking about, say, I don't know, your whatever's stressing you out in life. Maybe you got bills, maybe your mom's in the hospital or something. I don't know. And maybe all this COVID-19 drama. If you could get immersed into something like that and just remove your mind from all the other things for just a little bit, like that can really have a positive effect on the way you look at life.
It's funny. I remember when everybody was going into lockdown for COVID, there was a picture of everybody freaking out. I have to spend all day at home, and meanwhile, gamers over there just chuckling like, "Bring it on!" I do.
Oh yeah, I'm still waiting for my 14 days of quarantine.
Let's see, boost some creativity, improve relationships, feel young and energetic. 1.75 billion minutes a day on Candy Crush. I mean, now granted, this is not a new number, but Candy Crush is just a cell phone game. This is something that, as you go on a bus or,
that's more accessible to people.
It is.
Like everybody who has the capability of watching this stream or watching this video has the capability of downloading Candy Crush, and it's really easy to just sit there while you're waiting in line at the bank or whatever to make a withdrawal from your account to spend 2 or 3 minutes on Candy Crush right there,
Then there's the serious gamers. 170 hours per year per player, or a month of full-time work every year. Then Call of Duty players are really like that, huh?
I mean, I've personally had weeks where I don't do this every week, but I have had weeks where I have spent 80 hours on games just because I haven't had much else to do or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. So when a new game comes out, have you ever, supposing that none of your coworkers are online here, you admit to calling in sick?
I was not able to call in sick when I wanted to because the one game that I wanted to do that for, I was in the Navy, and they don't. But I do know people who have done that.
I know I used the sick day when I bought my PlayStation 2 ages and ages ago.
Well, you hear that with the March Madness basketball tournament too, people calling in sick for the first round or something, I mean, it's not unheard of phenomenon. And
the longer you stay in school in the U.S., the less likely you are to stay engaged. As compared to games, the longer you stay with the game, the more engaged you stay with that game. It's the opposite of play isn't work, it's depression. It's an interesting quote, and when you think about it, it's kind of there because as soon as you see people retiring, they're not necessarily, they start falling into some serious depression, some of them. But so here's a brain with interactive play versus passive play. So you're just watching a movie. So they can actually measure these parts of the brain, moving around. And there it is, learning versus just watching.
It'd be interesting to see what my brain would look like when I'm just casually streaming versus when I'm doing PvP or something. That would be kind of interesting. I wonder if it would look the same or if it would look different.
Yeah, I don't know.
The thing that I run into, well, it has happened a while, but when I get to a point where I feel like I've mastered a video game, it just stops feeling real to me. It just, the illusion gets broken, because you understand the mechanics so thoroughly that it's just like a box that you poke and it's going to do this or that. It's not like maybe we're getting too sidetracked with this comment, but I don't know if you ever experienced that, where like you don't feel like you're doing a SWAT team exercise anymore because the mechanistic quality of it becomes too prominent.
What you're talking about is something that we refer to as burnout. Mm-hmm. And I have experienced burnout, but for different reasons. A game that has good mechanics, even if you learn the mechanics, if it's got good mechanics and it's still fun, it will keep you engaged. And I've had games like Grand Theft Auto, for example, and I know I get back to that example a lot, but this is pretty relevant to some of the stuff I'm talking about. I know everything there is to know about that game. I mean, I've had on live stream where I am absolutely drunk and still just clowning on people. But to me, when you learn the mechanics of a game, when you truly understand how a game works and how a game is played, at least for the more competitive games that are versus like other people and stuff, that's when it really starts to become fun. But there are some games like Warframe is a game that I really like, but it's a game I kind of got burnt out on because the mechanics, I mean, they're like any other game of its genre and they haven't really changed. And that particular thing, like none of the challenges are unique at this point. There's not really there are some situations you could be in where you're playing the same game, but the challenges are unique and different every time because of what other players are doing or what's going on in the environment around you. And Warframe just doesn't have that. It's monotonous. You run through one mission and you shoot a bunch of things and then you extract. And then after a while, once you have gotten to the point that you have everything in the game like I do, you're like, well, fuck, what am I working for? Like, what am I doing? Why am I, you look at it, you're like, man, I spent 1,500 hours on this game. Well, what is there for me to do now?
Yeah, and that's why the online games are different than the console games. So where you mastered the Mario Brothers level, you know exactly where to jump, where to slide, and everything else. Versus when you're playing with humans in an open environment, big open environment, things will change, right?
Yeah, but you can also, even if you know about, like, say, some people challenge themselves even further. Like, all right, I know my way around the Mario map, right? And I know every little place that I have to jump and this and that and this and that. Okay, how about we speed run it?
Right.
Or how about I try to go through the entire game without ever picking up this style of power up? There's tons of different ways that, I mean, if you have an ounce of creativity, you can challenge yourself even further to, push your own limits of the game.
And when you're winning and failing and all those areas the brains are lighting up, that's the opposite of depression is what they're saying, these studies.
It's because you're not thinking about what's depressing you. You're thinking about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's why even outside of gaming, that's why having a hobby is important. Whether you're gardening or whether you're out beekeeping or working in a wood shop or whatever, having something to do that you can focus on is, I mean, I think it's something that every human needs.
And they've really gotten psychologists involved in designing these games to where psychologists, and we'll talk later about the economics, to where you get these economics professors logging in and figuring out how these things run, and the psychologists figuring out why we really enjoy it, because just winning a game isn't necessarily always the most fun part of the game. Sometimes falling off the cliff 50 times until you figure out how to jump right is rewarding.
Well, I've had moments of failure in games that just random ways of dying that are just absolutely hilarious. Like on my last live stream when I was playing Grand Theft Auto, I was doing I was doing some gameplay on my server, and I was trying to jump from one building to another, and that did not work out so well. And my character's head ended up hitting the side of the building over there, turning upside down and face planting right into a dumpster.
Sometimes failure is fun too, right?
Yeah, well, it's also something you can learn from.
So when you saw your character's face plummeted and squished like that, did you make fun of one of these faces here on the screen?
I was probably the bottom right here, just laughing about it because it was funny.
Just becoming fully engaged in the moment. Men don't quit playing because they grow old. They grow old because they quit playing. You know, there's just the psychology of it and how being playful keeps you active. If we're looking at some history here real quick, Noughts and Crosses was the oldest graphical computer games. It wasn't online. This was just very basic tic-tac-toe kind of a thing in 1952. And they were able to just make a basic GIF of it. When we're talking about video games, like not online, I kind of made a list here of the kind of things that I really played first when I was just coming up. And Dino Wars on the TRS-80, barely color, had joysticks, cartridge-based, and the TRS-80 was not in Windows or nothing like that. It was Radio Shack operating system. And that was really kind of the first one I came across.
Now, for me, the first game I've ever played would have to. The earliest game I remember ever playing was Duke Nukem 3D.
That was right up there with Castle Wolfenstein, yeah?
Yeah, which it was really controversial in its time because there was all kinds of stuff that you could do in that game that just really. Well, there's a certain part of the community that are not exactly with the times that game really upset.
The same kind of people that would be upset about people playing Dungeons and Dragons, I suppose, yes?
Yeah, you know, it's the same type of people that like lobby for the banning of games like Grand Theft Auto, you know. Like,
Yep.
oh God, what is it teaching our kids?
Speaking of teaching our kids, back in the 80s, the games were all talking about run, jump, eat this flower. And now games are all like, you are the darkness, haunted by your choices, and things like that. I thought this was pretty funny. I ran across yesterday.
That's fine. There was that new one that you have to like carry stuff across this post-apocalyptic landscape. Do you guys know the one I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Fallout?
No, it's by like oh geez. You have this fetus in a bulb that you carry, and I read an article about it, and it was, anyway, I can't remember the title, so we should probably move on. But
I should know what you're talking about, but I don't.
It was by the kind of auteur, like indie auteur developer.
Yeah, I try to like I have mixed experiences with indie games. I tend to avoid them because of that.
Well, Death Stranding, that's what it's called.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
It had a AAA budget, but anyway, that was kind of that kind of thing like this tweet is talking about, just really odd. You know, the stories that the video game will tell are not really predictable anymore. It could be any number of things.
There are tons of games that are out there that you can make your choices, and your choices impact the way the game ends and the way certain events in the game take place. My favorite example of one of those games, and the game's old enough that just about anybody could run it on their computer now. But Fallout New Vegas, oh man, I loved that game. And
It was so massive at the time.
It was actually the first game that I ever played on Steam. And because I didn't have good internet at that time, it didn't really factor in all the hours I put into that game. But I know I had to have put like 3,000 or 4,000 hours in that game, doing literally everything you could do in it. And those games are the most engaging, and they have the most replay value, because when you go back and you're like, well, I picked this side and I was on this team. What happens if I choose the opposite? Like, and then you kind of start getting into a philosophical argument of who's right and who's wrong. Once you understand the other side, you're like, well, I don't know that I agree with these guys' methods, but they certainly have a point at least, you know?
Yeah, well, I think I saw a photo of one of those games like Fallout or like Skyrim where somebody had printed off the entire script of like everything that all the NPCs say, and it was huge. It was like this thick, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like longer, like, you know, longer than any screenplay.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be, I don't have the stat in front of me, but I think that, and this isn't even a role-playing game or anything, but I think at one point in time, I don't know if it still is, but at one point in time, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas had the Guinness Book of World Records record for the most amount of spoken dialogue.
Wow.
And that was on PlayStation 2, and that game was so immersive back in the day.
Because PS2, that was online, right?
I think they just started, like, online gaming is really in its infancy back in the early 2000s.
It's definitely PS3, but I think PS2 started to had an Ethernet cable on there.
Yeah. And I think you could also, I seem to remember, I don't know if it was PlayStation or if it was Xbox, but I seem to remember being able to buy a Wi-Fi adapter for one of those consoles.
Yeah, so here's a huge list of the consoles, and as far as when they came out and everything, and
we're about to hit the next gen soon.
Real soon, right?
Yeah, we got PS5 and Xbox. I don't know what they call it. I don't follow Xbox, but we got Xbox whatever around the corner.
Wow.
Right on. Here's a great little YouTube that tells you the history of Nintendo, as far as what they were before they came out with the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Famicom and all that stuff. But now we're on to online gaming. And so in the news recently, Fortnite is coming to the Wichita Public Library as an e-sport. So if you have kids in school at Wichita High School, they can sign up for a class and they have an extracurricular activity. They got 320 desktops coming, big old budget. And so esports is going to be a real thing real quick. Clayton, you were mentioning that Summer Olympics, right?
Yeah, we're trying to make e-gaming an Olympic sport.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I did mention that to you when we were going over the slides.
Yeah, I found a news article, and it sounds like it's really plausible thing for to happen.
You know, I actually wrote a story. I do some news reporting on the side, and I actually wrote a story about the Wichita State esports team, and I got to visit their lair, the windowless room that they play the video games in, you know, and it's really a lot of these are like team-based game, like I think it's called Overwatch. And
yeah, Overwatch. That's a very it's a very relevant title these days. A lot of people are playing that.
But it's totally intense teamwork, you know, just like shouting back and forth, and totally inscrutable to somebody who doesn't play Overwatch, but it was pretty cool to see anyway.
How many kids were there?
When I was there, they were just practicing. I think there were 6 or 7 guys there.
Spread 6 foot apart?
No, this was over a year ago. But they you know, but they just they have to keep the academic eligibility, and they get scholarships, and they play against other schools and all that, just like other sports. But they don't have to travel because you can just connect on the computer.
It's the perfect social distancing activity because me and some of the people I game with are 12,000 miles apart.
Yeah, just take from some of those ball playing sports that aren't going on right now and just put some of that budget towards this. Makes sense to me.
I think a lot of this actually could potentially be cheaper than, you know, a whole new football field or whatever, you know. 10 or 20 gaming PCs, probably a, you know, $30,000 budget, you know, every 3 years or something. I mean, you'll have a pretty nice setup for a decent esports team.
And keeping those computers updated, though, over time. That's where a lot of schools
Well,
kind of down.
yeah, and I
Push
say
the
about
public foot.
I say about 3 years. 3 to 5 years is the average lifespan of a gaming computer before you have to upgrade something in it. Now you might not have to replace the whole machine, but at some point you might have to upgrade the graphics card or uh,
Or RAM.
in the case of what I did a couple years ago, I mean, do the processor and motherboard and RAM or whatever. You might have to upgrade something, but you don't have to throw out the whole rig. The power supply in it's still good. The case is still good. Your keyboards, monitors, and mice those don't really go bad very often.
I suppose at some point the kids will probably start coming in with their own mice because they'll invest in $300 mice and keyboard to make them, higher quality than what the school gave them. And
Believe it or not, my mouse, the mouse that I use, you could get for $50, and it's a really, really great mouse. I recommend it to everybody and their second cousin. I think it's the Logitech G502 Prometheus Spectrum.
Logitech even usually, huh?
Yeah, Logitech. Well, for keyboards and mice, and well, they're not sponsoring me or anything. I'm just saying this because this is what I like. For the past 10 years, I've used nothing but Logitech.
Yeah, I
And
think of
I had,
Logitech as low ball stuff, but apparently they're making good stuff now.
their gaming stuff is great. I don't like Razer. I've tried Razer stuff. I don't like it. It always breaks. The Corsair had a pretty good hardware when I used it, but I didn't like the software. But that was like 5 years ago, and that could have changed now. So I don't tell people not to use Corsair, but when Corsair costs the same amount as Logitech, I mean,
All right. Let's see. Definition of an online game: basically a game that you log on the internet so that you can play with other people. Now, it's not necessarily just a first-person shooter. It could be a online role-playing game. MMORPG is the massively multiplayer online role-player game. We're going to go through a lot of the definitions of what that might entail because they're kind of different, right? There's a lot of revenue involved in online gaming. A lot of time is spent there. We've already gone over that. Entire societies. The artificial intelligence in these games, it's just getting ridiculous because, as you were talking about earlier, how different games can take different paths inside the game, and the same characters will interact differently to different players at different times, right?
yeah.
Just,
And some you can even get environmental factors involved on some of these games.
oh yeah, they were talking about the airplane flight
Yeah.
simulator. It'll take real time weather data, and so as you fly through a storm, you look on the radar and it shows you that exact same storm.
When you're flying on Grand Theft Auto, you have to deal with aircraft turbulence and stuff. It's pretty crazy, and you'll get even more if it starts raining or thundering or whatever.
It'll shake your wings and drop you every once in a while.
Yeah, and it also makes like the rain makes cars a bit more difficult to drive, and the snow makes some cars impossible to drive.
Rear wheel drive, hopefully.
I had one car that just when I was doing one of my Grand Theft Auto Christmas streams, I had one car. It was snowing, and I could not get the car up the ramp to get out of the parking garage it was in.
That sounds like real life. Yeah, some of those driveways in Kansas City are just almost vertical. I hate to be up there in the wintertime. The origins of online gaming, starting with the MUDs that Sam mentioned earlier. 1980 was MUD 1. 1978 was the 1980
I
when
wonder if
it
any
was
of that stuff is
ARPANET.
still around.
It's just these games, they just keep playing them. They
Yeah.
have moved a lot of those MUDs onto other servers, and people are still playing them.
Still around. I just logged on. I played a MUD from 2000 to 2012, basically, called Achaea. And
Yeah.
I just logged in the other day for old time's sake, and it's still going. There are 200 or 300 people playing it when I logged in, you know. And it's a commercial game that's been in business for over 20 years now.
I might have to do a live stream of just checking that out and seeing what it's all about.
Yeah, you should. It's a lot of fun, and like any, you know, it's gotten really complicated over the years because the barrier
Is
to
it
add
like,
new features is way lower because there's no graphics to design for anything. So
yeah.
they just keep adding and adding and adding. It's gotten extremely
Well,
complicated.
and they basically have like unlimited processing power to do it with compared to what they had back in the day.
Right.
But is it like one of those things like the Oregon Trail where you're like making specific decisions and then it kind of either kills you or doesn't kill you, or is it one of those things where you're texting back and forth with other players, or what?
Yeah, I think to my understanding, it's basically like there's a heavy role playing aspect to it, like where you pretend to be a knight or a wizard or whatever, and you talk in the, you know, you're pretending, you know, as a group. But the combat part of it, it's actually developed to where, it's pretty similar to, in terms of the mechanics, to how it goes with like a game like Overwatch or Unreal or something like that, where, you know, you've got different attacks and abilities you can use, and you've got different buffs and different, you know, stuff like that. And it's kind of a real-time strategy that goes into it, and tactics. And I you know, if you're in combat, like the text scrolls up the screen so fast that no human could actually read it all. You have to just kind of know from experience what it says, even though there's not time to read it, if that makes sense.
So you actually type turn left and look at the slime and
yeah. Oh, that's in there. Yeah, that's kind of
interesting.
Yeah.
So is
Explain.
it handled like a command line interface? Like, is it just like a black screen with a bunch of white letters, or?
That's the you know, when I first started playing it, the reason I got into it is because my house, we only had dial-up, so I wanted to play an online game, but the only one that would work was Achaea, because it's just you could just use Telnet, which is like, yeah, bare command line and all white text. Now they've got there's a client program called Mudlet that, I guess the different, like, you're allowed to automate stuff. So the people that are really successful at the combat part of it have basically scripted and coded their own systems that respond for them in like different combat situations. If that,
Well, you could probably bind your commands to keyboard macros too. That'll automatically type them in for you when you push one button.
Yeah, there's that. There's
that's what I would do.
And triggers, and there's like, you know, like it could, even more than that, you can like script it so it's like, if X, Y, and Z are true, then do this. But if they're not true, then do that. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, the shortcoming of that though is if your combatant figures out how your system is scripted,
right?
And well, I mean, I'd be the guy to find a complete loophole in your tactic and exploit it until you get mad and leave the game.
Yeah. Well, the very best fighters in this game, that they create their own systems from scratch, and then the code, they keep it secret. People like me, there are systems that were created collaboratively that you can just download and load onto Mudlet, and that allows you to participate at a lower level. Like, anybody that's created their own custom system can kill you, but you can hold your own with most people. Anyway, this is kind of getting down a rabbit hole here, I think. But,
yeah, we're starting to run out of time, aren't we? It's coming close to 7:30.
Well, we started a little late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it only took us like 20 minutes to actually get the thing going in the first place.
That's true.
Sorry about that.
So here's a lot of the titles. I remember playing StarCraft, and I didn't ever take mine online with StarCraft, but I was this PlayStation 2 back in 2000. I didn't get in on a Sega Net because apparently those were for townies. You have to log in using the coax cable. But World of Warcraft was 2004. City of Heroes, Star Wars Galaxy, those sort of games really is when things really MMOs really started to come to light and get massive. So MOBA is an online battle arena, kind of where you all kind of smash heads together, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a PvP environment.
You ever run through any of these?
I actually haven't. I've had people try to get me to get on League of Legends, but I've just been too busy with other games that I'm more into. But they're popular. I know a lot of people who do them.
Yeah, that's one of the things about gaming is that you don't have to be a gamer of all the games, right? You can just kind of find your own little niche. I mean, there's going to be games that you just don't really get into. Some people really enjoy Puzzle Bobble and Tetris and do that all day long. You know, some people will really get into these Grand Theft Auto games and just that's 80 hours a week for you. When we come into it, so MUD is the usually text-based first-person shooter, FPS, real-time shooter, RTS, massively multiplayer online MMO. And under MMO, you've got the role-playing games, real-time strategy, first-person shooter, and online social games. So online social games are kind of more like where you just start coloring color sheets and selling those to people, I guess. Yeah?
VR chat. VR chat's the perfect example of an online social game.
Or like Second Life.
Yeah, Second Life. I was thinking.
They all get into like a virtual environment and they just sit there and talk with each other or do what they do in there.
So here's the MUDs. MUD 1, 1978. And we've got FP, first-person shooters. You got kind of Doom and Deathmatch inside of Doom. Counter-Strike, Call of Duty.
Oh, Halo was a game that really captivated my imagination back in the days when it first came out on the original Xbox.
Xbox One, yeah.
Yeah, and even to this day, it's still relevant. It's such a good game.
So much so that people, yeah.
Huh?
So you ever watch Rooster Teeth's The Red versus Blue? They just made a little TV YouTube channel.
Yeah, I have.
Just staring there, moving back and forth.
Yeah, that was back in the very, very primitive, basic days of YouTube, back before YouTube censored everything.
I remember downloading those one episode at a time from their original website because they didn't want to use YouTube.
I'm pretty sure they can't use YouTube for some of their stuff now with how censored it is.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. There was some things they did and said that just weren't quite right.
And canceled culture would probably get them if YouTube didn't.
Oh, big time. Let's see. Real-time strategy, or Age of Empires, Solarcraft, StarCraft, Warhammer. I never got a Warhammer.
I consider it a crime that you don't have Command and Conquer listed on here.
You got me there.
Because that's like the godfather of all RTS games. Like, that's the baseline that really... A lot of these other ones would not exist without Command and Conquer coming out in 95 and just completely blowing everybody's minds and changing the way they look at games.
I always played that. Did they make an online version of Command and Conquer?
Actually, they made a re-released version of it that is currently available on Steam. It's remastered and up to date with more modern graphics and audio. And
it's online, though?
Yeah, and it's a blast.
Huh. Play with other players. That would be interesting.
It's great. It's only like $20 too, and you can run it on just about any computer you got.
Some games you just go back to. I must have bought Diablo 2 4 or 5 different times.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
And I never really played that one online very often. I usually just played that just by myself.
I didn't play it online either. I was once I had beaten everything I could do in Diablo, then I started getting into character creators and combining the different spells together and stuff to see what kind of just absolute craziness I could get to happen.
And now that's what they expect you to do with these games. And back then it just wasn't, it was these individuals are being really strange and doing these odd things. But now
there's a lot more effort involved back then.
Yeah, let's see. So more of the MMOs. Talking about end user license agreements, EULAs, to where there's a lot of filtering, a lot of work that goes into making sure that kids can play in the same environments as adults. And sometimes it works, sometimes it fails, sometimes they just give up trying.
Well, a lot of them just have the EULA in there to cover themselves from getting sued. They sometimes they enforce those terms on the EULA quite selectively.
Okay.
Some companies, and they're and when they have, sometimes they'll have human moderators in place on some games to look at some of that stuff, but then even then, a lot of it comes down to whatever the moderator's bias is, and some people will get away with some things that are against the EULA and other people won't.
I read that EVE Online actually has a player council that's elected by the player base, and they fly these people out to Iceland for summit meetings and stuff like that.
I haven't looked at EVE Online since I think it was 2009.
Oh, it's been around that long. Wow.
It's massive, though. It really is. There's still a lot of people playing it.
I don't know what it's like now. Back in 2009, it wasn't really that good. I played it for a month and was like, I don't know about this. But it's probably changed quite a bit by now.
There's the ESRB ratings, to where the ratings back in 1994 were expanded in 2014 to be a bit more descriptive, and so you've got more nuance. A lot of this kind of goes by the wayside as soon as you go online, though, because anybody can say anything to any other players at any second.
Yeah, they can't regulate online gaming through the ESRB. It's just not possible. And they actually have a disclaimer in some of these games where they're like, yeah, we can't regulate online play, so
have at it, huh? All right. So anytime that any kids are on any of these games, you gotta be wary. So here's a bit about economics inside of games, to where it gets complicated really quick, and to where, so $1 is made by the government, $1 is given to the consumer, or earned by the consumer, whatever, and then it gets kind of cycled back through. But in these games, it gets created when you defeat an opponent or achieve a goal from the game, and so the inflation happens almost immediately because you don't have a set amount of gold in the game. And so they've come up with different ways to try and move that gold back out of the game by things that you can purchase in-game and auction houses and things like that.
Yeah, just about every online game has something like that.
It's just money sinks to try and just get that money back out of the game. To where there were things where you had prisoners in China playing World of Warcraft, mining gold as their prison sentence, and so that they could change that into real money later on.
I could think of worse things to happen when you get arrested.
Right. I'd rather do that than be handed a pitch, and try and dig a ditch and all sorts of things like that. But
you could stamp license plates, or you could go play some World of Warcraft. Well, I don't like World of Warcraft, but I know what I'm doing.
If you guys are interested, our library has a novel called Halting State by Charles Stross. The plot is all about video game economics and money sinks and hyperinflation. And anyway, the entire plot turns on these virtual economy questions and topics.
They really need to make a movie, like a heist movie, where some hackers come together and try to steal a bunch of in-game currency and like try to like sell it for real money or something. I think there's a pretty good movie plot to be written there.
That's basically
Potentially.
that's the plot of this novel, basically.
Yeah, it starts out with a bank robbery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one. But yeah, that would make it a pretty decent movie.
And it'd also be a pretty good. I mean, I'm not saying we should be encouraging people to do crime, but come to think of it, it also might not be a bad money laundering scheme. I could see the possibility of it happening.
Yeah, they'd have to be behind VPNs and all sorts of things.
Money laundering through MMOs is the plot of a novel about Neil Stephenson called Read Me.
Nice. So here's our list of consoles, and you were talking about how it was like the 6th and 7th and 8th generations, and how we're coming up on another generation here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's crazy. About every 5 years, we go into something new.
Console
Give or
wars,
take.
where they compete versus the faster speeds and everything else. So here's some of the earliest online game consoles were Intellivision and Sega Channel and Atari 2600, and a lot of these were just straight to coax, and you could download your games, but you weren't really necessarily playing with other people, but they were online games because that's where you got them from.
Yeah.
But an online game is over the network, and so some of the earlier games were Oregon Trail, Colossal Cave, and Star Trek were based on the mainframes from the ARPANET, kind of using Telnet and everything. So
Oregon Trail was brutal.
Oh my gosh, everybody died of dysentery. Everybody dies.
It was like the Oprah Winfrey of dysentery. Like, check under your seat.
Right on. And 1983 was the Flight Simulator. Was one of the first real kind of dogfight things where they actually use the internet protocol to where they can really say it was really online. It was used UDP to use as the internet protocol. So it was online, but it was just Flight Simulator, dogfight. But this one is pretty great to where they show one of the older games played on some newer monitors, and it's ridiculous how far we've gone in such a short period of time when it comes to flight simulators and graphics in general.
Oh, yeah. You could set up a full cockpit in your house now, like with actual working dials and stuff.
Oh, it's where the digital interface moves the dial?
Yeah.
This guy's got just digital dials all the way around him.
But like you could actually get actual legit real dials that will connect to your computer, and all the data from the flight simulator game will go into these dials, and it's like you're in a real plane. I've seen some of these setups, and they're absolutely crazy. And they're not exactly cheap, but they're not so expensive that like they're inaccessible to people.
So now we're on to things that we just can't ignore. Steam. I mean, it is the place to go to find online gaming right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I could pull up Steam right now and find all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. I've been on Steam since I think 2009 or something like that. It was
some of the biggest games on Steam currently. We got DOTA 2 and Destiny 2. I was surprised Destiny 2 is so high.
Destiny 2 has gained quite a bit of popularity when they moved their game over to being free to play. That gave them a lot of momentum.
Because that's a lot of graphics involved in Destiny 2, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, Warframe's free to play, and it's got some pretty good graphics too. So I mean, I don't necessarily think that just because a game has good graphics that is going to be indicative of how much it costs. I mean, or how popular it's going to be. Counter-Strike has terrible graphics, and look where it's at.
True.
But also, let's give a little bit of credit to Counter-Strike because it's been around for like ever. And I think part of the reason why Counter-Strike is as high as it is because you can run it on basically any computer.
Nice. Well, so history, Steam's been around 2003. And
I didn't know they've been around since 2003. That's crazy.
Yeah, standalone software there. But you can run it as its own operating system. You can run it on your iPhone and Android phone and everything else.
Yeah.
Films and anime and.
They actually make their own little box that has the Steam operating system on it that you can plug into your TV and have access to a whole plethora of different games that are on it.
Steam controllers, and then there's all the online games. Google Play has almost 400,000 games to you. I mean, they used to have a lot more, but they went through and they filtered them out to where they got rid of a lot of them that were just kind of junk or viral, or started loading all their buddies on the side. And I tend to like, as far as on Android games, I like the ones that actually make you get out and go physically to different places. I like the alternative reality games like Ingress, Pokemon Go, Walking Dead, Our World, Jurassic Park. Sam, you mentioned where you like Squiggle Park and Hearthstone and Alto's Honesty and Monument Valley.
Yeah, Squiggle Park is, if anybody has kids, it's basically the similar game mechanic to like Clash of Clans or a game like that, but instead of the part where you pay the money to get like gems or game currency in Clash of Clans, the way you earn gems in Squiggle Park is by reading excerpts of stuff, and then you answer reading comprehension questions. So it's tricking kids into reading in order to advance in the video game. But
wonder what would happen if they did that with e-bucks on Fortnite. We'd probably have a smarter generation coming out if they did something like that.
Yeah, worth a try, right? And then the Alto's Odyssey and Monument Valley, those ones they're kind of, I like them. They're kind of relaxed. Monument Valley is a puzzle game. Alto's Odyssey is kind of like almost like a simplified snowboarding simulation sort of game, and they're just really relaxing and nice to play.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and here's virtual reality, and these are some really early forms. There's a lot of online forms as well, and it's just gotten more advanced with time, to where you sometimes have to have a separate computer, and there's the Rift and HTC Vive and PlayStation VR and Gear VR, and this is kind of what they look like. I'm really skipping through it fast right now, but Google Cardboard, you can use your smartphone and you kind of build the device that you actually pop your cell phone into. So makes it a lot more available to more people. The fact that you can just use cardboard, you can buy their cardboard that has the fold and everything, but you can just make it yourself.
Yeah, you could probably find something on GitHub.
Oh yeah, they've got all sorts of instructions. But
that's a fun if you're looking for something to do that and you've got a smartphone, it's fun, and you can oh look, I'm by the Eiffel Tower, and you just and it only costs like $15 to order it from, if you don't want to mess around with cutting it out from your own cardboard.
Yeah. There's a lot of instructables. So there's a lot of discussion about which one's better, Vive or Rift, and there's active Facebook groups, and National Geographic has a lot of VR for Google Keep Cardboard. Right now, we're in this part where a lot of people are looking to educate their kids online, and so we've got a lot of links from our website. When we talk to the state, there's a lot of things that you can access, learning languages online and a Khan Academy and stuff like that. When we talk to the schools, they have a list of links that we can go through. If you just want to learn how to keyboard, that's a basic skill that starts off everything else. I got a whole bunch of homeschooling links that are going to be game based. A lot of them. There's entire schools that are developed with gamification in mind, so playing games, and that's only going to be ramped up as well with the esports. So there's a lot going on with online gaming. I'm going to need to start cutting it down here. Is there any questions from the audience, or anybody want to say anything before we close off?
Well, I'll wait for audience questions before I've got anything to say.
Yeah, I'm looking at both places, the library and your page.
Yeah, my my viewers on my page pretty well know what's up. Stephen Brelsford said when we were talking about Diablo and how we didn't play it online that we both starved ourselves of true gaming by not playing that online. But
Yeah.
I would retort that at that particular time, I was too engrossed in EverQuest.
I was still on dial-up. I was out in the country. I couldn't have fast internet. It was aggravating trying to play Diablo with a group on dial-up. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of aggravating trying to do anything on dial-up.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and close out, and that's all, folks. Game over.
In about, I don't know, probably about shortly, I'm going to be doing a live stream on my own page. I will warn you guys that I am not the most politically correct. I'm uncut. I'm uncensored. Kids should not be tuning into my live stream unless, parental discretion is advised. But if you guys I'm going to be doing some Grand Theft Auto stuff on my own hosted server. If you guys are more interested in tuning into that, I will be live on Facebook /Sovereign92. That's SOVERIGN92. And you guys are more than welcome to tune into that. And I have my weekly talk show every Wednesday. When I get on, I talk about current events, and my opinions are not necessarily reflective of anybody else in here. But it is what it is, and I pretty much get on and I talk about whatever I feel like talking about. So if you want to tune into that, you're more than welcome to. If not, that's fine too. It is what it is. But yeah, I'll see you guys there if you do come.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
And for rescuing our live stream as well.
Yeah, my back hurts from carrying people all the time.
All right. Well, yeah, cool.
You guys take it easy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to hang this thing up. Press end. Yeah, take it easy, man.
All right, take it easy. Cool. Well, great. We're off the air now, I guess. So thanks again. Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess I thought. Huh?
Did you get the recording, or where the recording?
Yeah, it's still recording. So once I close the meeting, it'll start downloading the recording to my computer.
Worst case scenario, there's a live stream on my page that you guys can download if you want. It's got everything except for us blundering with technical difficulties and crap.
I think I should have it. Well,
okay. Well, I need to get going. I got everybody hollering at me. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
See ya.
I hope you're not keeping people.
Just the daughter.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.